You're watching Channel 5.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the president in Japan. Mr. Bush and the Japanese leadership are about to begin 3 days of difficult, delicate, demanding negotiations about America's most complicated relationship, made even more so by the myths and misunderstandings which are so common in both countries. ABC's Britt Hume is with the president in Tokyo, and at the top of the agenda is trade.
The president took some time on this first day of his 3-day visit here to celebrate an American business success story. New Jersey-based Toys R Us opened its second Japanese store, with its first store reporting booming sales. Mr. Bush used the occasion to cite what he claimed are the advantages on all sides of free trade.
And each partner must realize that it benefits from free trade and open markets. In the cause of free and open trade, we want agreements that produce permanent improvement in access and in U.S. sales to Japanese markets, and permanent improvement in the lives of Japanese consumers.
In other words, Mr. Bush is saying if the playing field is level and the competition open, everyone can play. Much as he tried to play a bit of an ancient Japanese kickball game this afternoon. Open market, says the president, mean better goods at better prices. But it was not at all clear that the heads of the 3 major auto companies who are traveling with the president want open markets. They say they do, but what else they say suggests they want something quite different. In effect, a government guarantee of less competition from Japan.
The freer the market, the bigger beating we're taking, especially during a recession. Have 3 years like this, we can't afford it. So you finally got to say, in the interest not of the companies of America, we can't just drop the whole damn automobile business.
3 more years.
What we have proposed is a reduction in the bilateral imbalance of trade with Japan. Period.
In other words, Japan must find a way to sell less to or buy more from the U.S., or else. Or else what?
I think that they can look and see the proposals that are being made by Congress at the present time.
Well, does that mean you would support those in that event?
I think we have to take a look at what happens in the next few days.
That's an ultimatum to the Japanese, but it's also an ultimatum to the president. Either he makes a deal here that satisfies these auto executives, or they'll embarrass him by coming back from this trip and going straight to Congress to back the very kind of protectionist trade legislation Mr. Bush strongly opposes. Britt Hume, ABC News, Tokyo.
Back for a moment to that Toys R Us operation that Mr. Bush went to see today. Like other U.S. companies, Toys R Us had to overcome Japanese trade barriers. For example, the Japanese government tries to keep unemployment down and traditional businesses intact by protecting mom and pop stores against larger chain operations. But it is possible for an American company to prevail. Toys R Us did. Here's ABC's Bill Rediker.
When Toys R Us recently opened its first store in Japan, 17,000 shoppers showed up on the first day, proving that an American company can get a foothold in the Japanese market.
I
really think that the selection and prices are great. Toys R Us did what many American companies do not do. They spent 3 years lobbying the U.S. and Japanese governments to overturn a national law banning large retail stores. They also avoided Japan's notoriously complicated and expensive distribution system by making deals with manufacturers who were willing to bypass the middlemen and send their products directly to Toys R Us.
Instead of bellyaching or complaining about what the situation might be, I think we've taken the attitude that we're going to take the problems as they come, and we're going to overcome on each one.
The reward is access to Japan's $6 billion a year toy market. The strategy? Cut prices and offer a wide selection.
The idea is to be on the leading edge of the change, to help bring the change in your own industry and make it happen, and take some risk.
That attitude has helped other American companies here. IBM, Procter & Gamble, and Coca-Cola all struggled at first, but eventually succeeded. Today, their subsidiaries in Japan are more profitable than their parent companies in America.
This is a huge economy. It's growing faster than other industrialized economies. Barriers are coming down. Opportunities are legion.
A recent survey of more than 300 American companies in Japan supports that view. The majority of American businessmen here say the barriers are falling. The Bush administration may complain that Japan's markets are closed, but for companies with money, time, and patience to persevere, The changes now occurring in the world's toughest retail market are making it easier to do business here. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Tokyo.
There is another billion-dollar item on the president's agenda in Japan. He wants the Japanese to contribute more than $1 billion to an American research project. The Japanese aren't sure they can afford it, and even some American scientists question whether the project is worth the cost. Caught in the middle of all this is a small Texas town that could gain or lose a great deal. Here's ABC's Linda Patillo.
35 miles south of Dallas, in the middle of the North Texas plains, construction is underway on the world's biggest atom smasher, which scientists hope to use to study the origins of the universe. If it is completed, the super collider would make nearby Waxahatchie, population 18,000, an international research center, creating more than 5,000 jobs.
I've been living here since 1926, and that's the biggest thing that ever happened in Waxahatchie. But we wait and see if it's going to ever develop.
The problem is the U.S. may not be able to afford the super collider's $8 billion price tag on its own, and wants the Japanese to help out. But many Japanese officials are reluctant to spend money on this project when they need research money at home. And there are people in this country who think if Japan decides not to help and the project collapses, it would not be such a bad thing. The United States has already spent $1 billion on the super collider. Some question whether the government can afford to spend billions more.
If we had infinite resources, it would be nice to do this, but we don't.
Building the super collider at this time, it seems to me, is like, the roof is leaking, the kids are hungry, and Papa's got a good solution. He goes out and he buys a convertible.
Proponents say what is happening outside Waxahatchie will advance the frontiers of human knowledge. But if Japan and other countries do not help pay the bill, it may be a frontier the U.S. can no longer afford to explore. Linda Patillo, ABC News, Waxahatchie, Texas.
Some other industrial news. There were more layoffs announced today. Sears Roebuck says it will install new computerized cash registers in all its stores this spring and eliminate nearly 7,000 jobs. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 4 points to close at 3204, and the trading was heavy. In a moment, the other news. Today's definition of democracy at work in the Georgian Republic. On the American agenda tonight, designing a better suburb with old-fashioned ideas. And machine against machine at a game where human minds still excel.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Fleischmann's Margarine.
Fleischmann's Margarine asks, what is good? Oh, that's good. Real good. And that's very good. Fleischmann's. Of course, that's good. And will you look at that? Oh, there you go. That's better than good. Oh, boy. Fleischmann's Margarine. Have you been good to yourself today? That's good. Fleischmann's. Be good to yourself.
That's perfect.
Back in 5, Stephanie?
When you're trying to eat right, days like this are a disaster. Is this it?
Stephanie Powers talks about Kellogg's Nutri-Grain.
The only time I really control what I eat is at breakfast, and the whole grain in Kellogg's Nutri-Grain gives me a natural start. No sugar added, no preservatives, nothing fake. No matter what I eat later, at breakfast I call the shot.
Naturally good. Nutri-Grain, the natural place to start.
Overseas again in Yugoslavia today, the ceasefire was violated by a Yugoslav Air Force pilot said to be acting on his own. He shot down a helicopter carrying observers from the European community as the helicopter was flying towards the Croatian Republic. 4 Italian soldiers and a French officer were killed. The Yugoslav Air Force says it's tragic, and the head of the Yugoslav Air Force has reportedly been put under house arrest. There were no apologies at all today from the military men now running the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. Today, they once again used force to break up a peaceful rally. A leader of the military council in Georgia says, our rules are clear, no rallies, no demonstrations. ABC's Walter Rogers is in the Georgian capital, Tbilisi.
Several thousand supporters of former President Gamsakhurdia took to the streets to protest the violence that forced him from office, their numbers growing as they marched. Someone threw smoke bombs at the demonstrators, and an unseen gunman fired into the air. These tactics infuriated supporters of the former president. Farther along, more gunmen appeared, trying to disperse the crowd. A demonstrator challenged them. At least 2 marchers were hit, and the violence led protesters to mock the new government, which had forced an elected president to flee.
This is democracy. This is.
The transition away from totalitarianism in Georgia has been painful. The Civil War has cost about 100 dead and 400 wounded. And it is made all the more difficult by the fact that both sides still claim to represent the true forces of democracy. And both sides remain well armed. This man said Tbilisi resembles Beirut. As Georgians tried to clean up after more than 2 weeks of fighting, one official tonight defended today's use of force to break up the protest and threatened more force tomorrow if Gamsakhurdia supporters defy a decree against demonstrations. Walter Rogers, ABC News, Tbilisi.
One last note from overseas in the Philippines. The former First Lady Imelda Marcos says she is running for president. She made the announcement on the courthouse steps after pleading innocent to 6 new charges that she helped hide money stolen from the Philippine government when her husband was the president. When we come back, the disappearing defense dollars. How much will the Navy do without?
My dad had ulcers, so when my stomach started acting up, I was afraid to go to the doctor. But finally, I went. Was I relieved when my doctor said Mylanta? He said it was indigestion, not an ulcer, and my kind of indigestion called for a strong medicine.
Mylanta is strong medicine, strongly recommended. In fact, Mylanta is the antacid doctors recommend most.
My doctor said Mylanta.
Come on and nutricize your body. Come on.
I've been nutricized. I went from a size 12 to a size 6. Now you could do it too, for a lot less. These are the last 3 days to lose 10 pounds free. Start to nutricize your life. Lose 10 pounds free when you call right now. But don't wait. Call 1-800-321-THIN. Hurry. This offer ends in 3 days.
To get rid of her gray, my wife can spend 40 minutes. But I discovered this 5-minute hair coloring.
The revolutionary discovery called Just for Men from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men and in 5 minutes shampoo out.
Gray is blended away. The look of my natural color is back in 5 minutes. That was me, and it won't fade or wash out.
My hair takes forever, but you look great in just 5 minutes.
The look of your natural color in just 5 minutes with Just for Men.
There was another fairly dramatic proposal today for saving money on defense. The Liberal Democrat Senator Edward Kennedy says it is possible to get $210 billion out of the Pentagon budget over the next 7 years. Recently, Senator John McCain, a conservative Republican, proposed a similar cut. Tonight, our second report on where the savings might come from. In the Navy's case, from the aircraft carrier battle groups. Here's ABC's Bob Zelnick.
In the early morning, just west of Gibraltar, a carrier battle group headed by the USS Forrestal ends a 6-month tour in the Mediterranean. Taking its place, the USS America. The changeover between the two commanding admirals symbolizes the permanent presence maintained for decades by U.S. carriers in the Mediterranean and elsewhere.
The requirement for carriers and the flexibility that they bring to the arena is time proven. You know, they're there first, and they seem to always be the last ones to go home.
But on this trip, the return of the Forrestal may also symbolize a smaller, less far-ranging Navy. This is the Forrestal's final journey home. Once it reaches the United States, it will become a training ship for Navy pilots that will reduce the number of U.S. carrier battle groups from 13 to 12. Some analysts say that number could drop even further. The Cold War Navy was built around carriers. Each carrier was defended by 11 ships and 2 submarines. Together with aircraft, each carrier battle group costs $20 billion to build and another billion a year to operate. If the U.S. kept fewer carriers on station, it would need fewer backups, and the number of battle groups could be reduced to 9. That would save more than $60 billion by the year 2000. Some defense critics say the Navy needs just 6 carriers, but veteran officers like 6th Fleet Commander Vice Admiral Bill Owens fear cutting back too quickly.
What I would fear most is that we don't learn the lessons of history and the need for resolute presence, even at times when it seems to be relatively peaceful.
Anticipating deep cuts, the Navy is trying other options to cut costs. It has reduced to 6 the number of support ships in each battle group. With no Soviet air or submarine threat, there is little concern about carrier vulnerability. It has tried joint operations with Allied warships, and the Navy is trying to use cheaper planes on its carriers. It has stopped buying F-14s and has made no final decision on replacing its aging A-6 bomber. Instead, it will upgrade the F-A-18, a less expensive, less capable aircraft, but more than a match for any third world enemy. Still, the pressure for cutbacks appears likely to overtake the Navy's efforts at thrift. In a world where no challengers to U.S. naval power appear on the horizon, most, both inside and outside the Pentagon, believe reducing carrier battle groups is a manageable risk. Bob Zelnick, ABC News, aboard the carrier Forrestal.
Tomorrow night we'll report on the battle among the politicians to keep what defense money there is in their own home districts. And in a moment, tonight's American agenda, designing a new suburb.
And toast with butter, sir. Oh, miss, do you have Philly?
It's not just the taste. Philly cream cheese also has ounce for ounce half the calories of butter or margarine. Next time, butter your bread with Philly instead.
Now it's a lonesome old world when you have to fight it all alone.
At Maytag, we still build them to last longer and need fewer repairs.
And it's twice as hard to take when I'm sitting there all alone.
Maytag.
All alone.
The dependability people.
There was a time when aerodynamic design and agile handling would have been unheard of in a car this roomy. A time when a V8 that's more powerful and more efficient would have been simply inconceivable. But that was then, and this is now. The new Ford Crown Victoria. Have you ever wished the traditional could become the exceptional? Have you driven a Ford lately?
What do you smell?
I can't smell anything. My nose is clogged, yeah.
For fast relief, try Dristan 12-hour nasal spray. Now smell.
It's an orange. Dristan nasal spray just works incredibly fast.
Dristan, the face of relief today.
Introducing Domino's Double Up Deal. 2 medium pizzas each with 1 topping for just $10.99. $10.99? $10.99. And Domino's makes your pizzas fresh when you call. Nobody knows like Domino's how you like Domino's Double Up Deal. Just $10.99. How do you do that?
On the American agenda this evening, reinventing the suburb. For so many people who live in the suburbs, life often seems to be one never-ending drive. Someone figured out that members of a typical family in the suburb get into the car an average of 13 times a day. Go to work, get in the car. Get in the car, get the groceries. Get in the car, get the kids. Not much time left over for family, friends, community. Life in the suburbs can use more than some fine-tuning. Our agenda reporter is Ned Potter.
Moreno Valley, California. The DiAgostino family thought it would find the suburban dream here, but it turned out to be a nightmare. Frank begins a 2-hour commute to Los Angeles at 4:30 every morning. Margaret has to chauffeur the kids before she gets to her own job.
Got your seatbelt on?
On the way home, 14 hours later, Frank still has to get the children from daycare. The family ends up exhausted at home, isolated from the neighbors because they are constantly at the wheel, because sprawling modern suburbs are geared more to cars than community.
That idea was nice coming out here, but that's really not what it turned out to be. It's just basically a place to come and crash during the week because you're so tired.
There's no closeness in the neighbors. We don't really know very many people.
Millions of Americans live the same way, many wishing they could find something better. Maybe now they can. Some planners are building suburbs that can be as compact and friendly as a small town.
Geez, why don't you go forward?
In the new village of Seaside, Florida, people, not cars, dominate. Residents can walk or bike to stores, so they know each other.
Tell Charles I said bye.
Which is rarely true in most suburbs.
If we have this one here, then we have another one here.
Andre Stuani and his wife Elizabeth Plater-Zyberg designed Seaside. Now they're planning more than 50 new suburbs on the same idea.
The choice of not being car dependent is not being provided in the suburbs. What the traditional towns provide is the choice. Yes, you can drive, but also you can walk.
Hello. They've got little kids too. How are you today? The goal is to bring suburbanites closer together. Today, many are isolated, not just in their cars, but in their homes too, separated from their neighbors by empty front lawns and private backyards. So the designers take a standard suburban house and move it closer to the sidewalk. They move the garage back, then add a front porch, a good way to come in contact with your neighbors. Finally, they make the street more narrow, so cars slow down and pedestrians feel safe. The result is the sense of neighborhood one finds in Seaside.
You're encouraged to be out on your feet, and if you're out on your feet, you're going to encounter other people, and there's a vitality that grows out of that.
Whoa! But nice as all that may be, it is not enough to sustain a working suburb. People need to be able to reach jobs, schools, and stores. And designers have found that if the distance is any more than 5 minutes, people will drive it.
The pedestrian connection from the main street to the park is really the key.
So architect Peter Calthorpe has designed the most ambitious project yet, a suburb with a downtown of its own. Now in the first stages of construction, it is called Laguna West, near Sacramento. Homes for 8,000 people will surround a town center with stores, parks, schools, and daycare, eventually a commuter station. Most important, the plan includes office buildings right within 5 minutes of every house. Apple Computer is building a complex next door. In any other suburb, zoning laws would keep homes and offices far apart.
Oh, yeah.
If all of this seems familiar, that's because it is.
Glad to see you again.
Well, glad to see you.
You have seen it before in the powerful ideal of the small town. Creating new towns is not radical, it's a revival.
In a way, Main Street is not just a powerful, nostalgic goal. It's a return to the human scale environment, which we seem to have lost in our suburbs.
Designers say if the idea spreads, it could mean less traffic and more human contact.
Give me a big kiss.
Cleaner air and safer streets.
Come on, Beach Man.
A friendlier and healthier future.
Start running, buddy. Let's go.
Ned Potter, ABC News, Seaside, Florida.
We'll have our final report in just a moment.
I use a shampoo for dandruff, but my scalp still itches like crazy.
You need new Scalpicin, the revolutionary scalp medicine for deep scalp itch, not ordinary dandruff. Scalpicin is not a shampoo. It's a clear liquid you don't wash away like shampoo. Apply Scalpicin anytime for deep scalp itch relief with medicine chosen by doctors over all these dandruff shampoo formulas. Scalpicin penetrates to relieve the itch and help prevent flaking.
The itch is gone.
New Scalpicin, the scalp medicine for deep scalp itch.
I live in the country, where everything tastes a little sweeter and a little fresher. Maybe that's what I like best about these Sunsweet pitted prunes. I can taste all that goodness in Sunsweet.
This is ordinary bulk fiber. It's full of grit. This is new Sunrise Smooth Metamucil. The grit is gone because it's triple ground for smoothness. This is ordinary fiber. The grit is definitely not gone. This is new Sunrise Smooth Metamucil, the best mixing, smoothest tasting natural fiber you can buy. The grit is gone. New Sunrise Smooth Metamucil. For regularity, nothing works better. And the grit is gone.
Nighttime, one of the worst times for pain. That's why you need new Ultra Strength Bengay with more pain relievers than we've ever had. Fast relief from muscle aches and minor arthritis pain. With new Ultra Strength Bengay, you can say goodnight to your pain.
Tonight on Nightline.
It's important to hear from people who have experience in world affairs.
A conversation with Richard Nixon on Nightline tonight.
Finally here this evening, the electronic grandmaster. We refer to computers which play chess. Given the vast amount of information which computers digest, we are among those who worry that sooner or later chess is another of those leisurely, thoughtful pursuits in life which the computer will somehow manage to overwhelm. You will be pleased to know we think that as of this year, man is still winning, though the machines are getting better. Here's ABC's Gary Shepard.
At the 22nd Annual Computer Chess Championships, the computers are so good they can defeat all but the world's top 100 human players.
They're looking at 5 million chess positions per second, and that translates into about 900 million chess positions in the course of making a move.
They have names such as Deep Thought, Cray Blitz, High Tech, Socrates.
Bishop takes on d3.
Each computer's human handler enters the opponent's move, then waits for the response. They keep track of the game on a real chessboard, and spectators can follow along by watching a projection screen overhead.
This competition is the computer chess equivalent of the World Series or the Super Bowl. And to help the spectators follow the action, they even have a play-by-play announcer.
Crucial game, Cray Blitz versus Deep Thought. Looks very equal. After capture and recapture, bishop takes pawn is a possibility, so white might have to play b4.
Mike Valvo is the tournament director and a top chess player. He says the best machines are now able to look a dozen moves ahead, are playing at the Grand Master level, and keep getting better every year, even though they don't have the imagination and intuition that the best human players have. The top player in the world, Garry Kasparov, is able to plan his strategy 20 moves ahead. He took on one of these computers a few years ago and beat it. But youngsters from the two best junior high school teams in the country tried their luck here and were blown away.
I can't really expect to beat this computer. It's the best.
The official games often last more than 6 hours as these electronic warriors flex their silicon chips in a battle where speed usually determines the winner, as it did this time. For the 4th year in a row, Deep Thought, sponsored by IBM, is the world champ. The prize, $4,000, and the prestige that comes with being the smartest chess-playing computer anywhere. Gary Shepard, ABC News, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a good evening. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Tuesday, Homefront returns.
So the only way to make this thing work is to sleep together.
Nothing you say is going to convince me to have sex with you. I simply cannot feed that child from your bosom and expect her to thrive. I've seen many healthy babies eat from mother. Not in this country.
An all-new episode of Homefront, Tuesday at 10, 9 Central.
No matter how cold it gets, the Energizer is guaranteed to start. The Energizer, guaranteed to start. Depend on it.
Tonight, Homefront returns.
Are there any special needs we should know about? Needs? Any special foods your people eat?
Well, we've always had our eye on you, Linda, because we're always on the lookout for management material.
There are a lot of progressive people in management. You could very well be one yourself.
I can't dance, I can't act, and I can't write speeches. Do you want to get engaged?
An all-new episode of Homefront.
News. Weather. Sports. All in the first 10 minutes.
Channel 5 has a newscast that won't make you wait.